Ever wonder why tennis looks so different today than it did decades ago? From tiebreakers to Hawkeye challenges, every rule change rewrote how the game is played, watched, and won. Let's rewind and see how each one changed tennis forever. Tiebreaker. Before the tiebreaker, matches could drag on for hours. In the 1960s, if a set reached 6-6, players just kept going until someone won by 2 games. That meant 15-13, 18-16, sometimes even 20-18. Fans got tired. TV hated it. Players nearly collapsed. Then in 1970, James Van Allen brought a fix, the tiebreaker. The idea was simple. Reach 7 points first, win the set. The US Open tested it first, and it worked. The crowd stayed locked in, broadcasters loved the timing, and suddenly tennis had structure. Today, every Grand Slam uses some version of it. Wimbledon added its own version in 2019, deciding final sets at 12-12, then switching again in 2022 to a standard 10-point format for all majors. That single rule cut marathon matches and saved players from 6-hour nightmares. It made the game fair and watchable. No ad scoring. In the 1980s, doubles matches were running too long, especially on TV. The WTA wanted to tighten up scheduling and make points matter faster. Enter no-ad scoring. If a game hits deuce, 1 point decides it all. No advantage, no repeat deuces. Win that point, win the game. The WTA adopted it for doubles in 1985. The ATP followed later for doubles in 2006. At first, purists called it too harsh, but it made every point dangerous and every deuce electric. Matches ran cleaner, fans followed the score easily, and strategy changed. Teams played riskier on that single deciding point. Some still argue it removes patience from the sport, but the format is stuck because time matters more than tradition. Electronic line calling. Before the cameras, line calls caused riots. Players screamed at umpires, crowds booed, and wrong calls decided entire matches. Then came Hawkeye. The system debuted in 2002 for broadcast graphics, but by 2006 it became part of official review at the NASDAQ 100 Open in Miami. The ATP and WTA approved it after testing its accuracy at 99%. Each player got 2 or 3 challenges per set. If they were right, they kept it. If not, they lost it. The difference was huge. No more guessing, no more arguments. The audience even got to see the animation in real time. It added tension and fairness. By 2020, during the pandemic, Hawkeye Live replaced line judges entirely at some events. The computer called balls instantly, freeing up the court from human error. The ATP made a full electronic calling standard by 2025. Now there are no more arguments, no more controversies. The system ended decades of fights in a single update. On-court coaching. Tennis was long seen as a solo battle. No coaching, no signals, just you versus the world. But players and tours kept pushing for change. The WTA tested on-court coaching in 2009, allowing 1 visit per set during breaks. ATP players stayed banned until 2022, when both tours unified a new version. Coaches could give short verbal advice from the box, as long as they didn't stop play. The rule changed everything about in-match tactics. Players like Tsitsipas and Sabalenka started using it openly. Purists said it broke the solo spirit of the sport, but the tours said it reflected reality. Coaching happens anyway. The WTA went further, allowing full conversations during timeouts. ATP data later showed matches ended faster, and players stayed calmer. The rule became permanent in 2023. It turned silent battles into real team efforts. Time clock. Between points. Before 2018, players could take as long as they wanted between serves. Some stretched it to 30 seconds, others nearly a minute. The rule said 20 to 25 seconds, but enforcement was inconsistent. Then the ATP introduced the shot clock, 25 seconds between points. If the clock hits 0, it's a time violation. The rule began at the 2018 US Open and quickly became standard on both tours. Suddenly, pace mattered. Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic had to adjust their routines. Matches flowed faster. Fans stayed engaged. Players could see exactly how much time was left. No more mystery warnings. By 2021, nearly every major used it. Now rhythm and stamina mean something new. You can't hide behind slow play. The game keeps moving. Tie breaks and doubles. Doubles used to have full third sets, but they often stretched tournaments too long. So in 2006, ATP and WTA both added a super tiebreak instead. First team to 10 points wins the match. It cut down match length by nearly 25 minutes on average. Fans got a dramatic finish every time. Every point felt like a match point. Some veterans hated it. They said it made outcomes too random. But for the tours, it solved the schedule crisis. Broadcasters could predict finish times again. Now super tie breaks are used everywhere except Grand Slam men's doubles, which still plays full sets. It's the rule that made doubles survive the modern tour. Medical timeouts. In the 1990s, tennis had no standard medical timeout. Players had to beg for breaks. Then in 1996, both tours added an official rule. 1 medical timeout per match, lasting up to 3 minutes. Trainers could only come during changeovers, not anytime. Later came the heat rule. At the 2018 Australian Open, several players retired mid-match due to 40 degrees Celsius heat. That led to new limits. The wet bulb globe temperature system was introduced to measure heat stress. If it passed 32.5 degrees Celsius, organizers could allow extended breaks or even suspend play. The WTA also added a heat break before final sets for women. Now hydration plans and recovery time are regulated, not improvised. Matches continue safely even under extreme weather. Equal prize money. It's not just rules on the court that changed tennis. For decades, women earned less at the same events. Then in 1973, the US Open became the first slam to offer equal prize money for men and women. The WTA, led by Billie Jean King, pushed every major to follow. Wimbledon held out the longest, finally equalizing in 2007. The ATP and WTA now pay equal prize money at all Joint Masters 1,000 events as of 2023. It's not just about fairness. It changed who played, how events were marketed, and how sponsors viewed the sport. The rule wasn't just social. It changed the business model forever. Racket technology regulation. By the early 1980s, graphite rackets replaced wood. Players hit harder, faster, and flatter. The ITF realized the game could spiral out of control. In 1997, they introduced strict specs: max 29 inches in length, 12.5 inches wide. String tension, head size, and material limits were locked. The WTA followed the same guide. Then came the ban on double-stringed rackets in 1978 after Ilie Nastase used one that gave absurd spin. These limits saved tennis from turning into baseball. Players could innovate within boundaries, but power stayed balanced with skill. That's why today's rackets look modern, but still obey a rulebook from the 90s. Service let rule debate. If a serve hit the net and landed in, it was replayed, called a let. But technology changed that. Some tournaments began testing no-let rules in 2018 on lower tours. ATP Next Gen Finals used it first. The logic: if it lands in, it's playable. Even if it clips the net, it counts. The test showed faster pace and fewer interruptions. As of 2025, the main tours still use traditional lets, but pressure is growing. College tennis and lower circuits already moved on. The no-let rule could soon reach the pro level. When it does, reflexes will matter even more. Don't blink. The next set of rule changes didn't just tweak the sport, they rewrote how every match feels from the first point to the last. Keep watching because the biggest shifts are still ahead. Bathroom break limits. After the 2021 US Open, complaints piled up about players using bathroom breaks to stall. Stefanos Tsitsipas famously left for nearly 8 minutes mid-match. The ATP responded in 2022. 1 break per match, 3 minutes total. If you need a change of clothes, add 2 minutes. Time starts the moment you reach the bathroom. Exceed it, face penalties. The point was to stop gamesmanship. It worked. Matches stayed tight, no fake equipment adjustments, no long vanishing acts. Small change, big difference. Warm-up time cut. Back in the 80s and 90s, players could stretch, rally, and hit for nearly 5 minutes after the coin toss before a single real point began. It was a traditional buffer and a broadcast nightmare. Those long pre-match minutes drained energy from both players and spectators. By 2022, the tours finally decided to modernize. The ATP and WTA jointly reduced on-court warm-up time to 1 minute, enforcing a strict countdown between the toss and first serve. The logic was simple. The action should start when the players walk out, not 5 minutes later. To make this practical, both tours expanded off-court warm-up zones equipped with full training areas and hitting walls, ensuring athletes arrive match-ready. Officials also introduced fines for delays beyond the 60-second mark, closing a loophole that once allowed slow starts or extra stretching under the spotlight. Coaching penalty revisions. Before coaching was legalized, it existed in a confusing gray zone. Coaches often shouted coded phrases or made hand gestures that everyone saw but few umpires called. Enforcement varied wildly between tournaments. When the ATP and WTA formally introduced limited on-court coaching in 2022, they didn't just open the door, they rebuilt the rulebook. The updated regulation drew clear boundaries. Coaches could give advice verbally or through short phrases only when the player was on their end of the court and the ball was not in play. Anything beyond that, shouting mid-rally or signaling from the wrong zone, triggered an automatic point penalty. By 2024, the WTA added a new restriction for the data era. Coaches were barred from using real-time analytics, tablets, or wearable performance feeds during matches. That rule preserved the purity of decision-making on court. Double bounce replay rule. Before 2020, there was no official way to confirm whether a ball had bounced twice before being hit. Players had to call it themselves, and that self-policing system caused endless tension. A single misread bounce could decide a match, and slow-motion replays from broadcasters often showed the wrong call only after the point was gone. The issue reached a breaking point after high-profile incidents involving Frances Tiafoe and Dominic Thiem, where debates over second bounces overshadowed the matches themselves. In 2021, tennis finally fixed it. Hawkeye's double bounce replay became an official review system. When a rally ends with a disputed bounce, officials check it instantly. If the ball clearly touched the court twice before being struck, the point is reversed. Players no longer have to rely on trust or honesty under pressure. What used to be a judgment call became a measurable fact. Time limits. For most of its history, tennis matches were endurance marathons with no sense of time. Players could walk, wipe sweat, or argue for minutes between points. By 2023, both tours decided to modernize. The new continuous play clause required players to resume within 15 seconds between points and strictly limited delays between changeovers unless for medical or hydration reasons. The ATP also banned the old towel walk, forcing players to use towel boxes positioned behind the baseline. What seemed like a small logistical tweak actually changed the game's pace entirely. The average match time dropped by several minutes, crowd engagement improved, and rallies flowed faster. The stopwatch turned into an invisible opponent, one that punished hesitation and rewarded focus. Equipment delay clarification, bathroom and clothing breaks became infamous loopholes. Players stretched the rules to cool down momentum, or rest disguised as equipment adjustments. After repeated criticism and viral on-court arguments, the ATP issued a full clarification in 2024. The updated rule allowed a single bathroom break per match. Clothing changes, which used to be treated separately, were now included under the same restriction. The critical new clause stated that any player leaving the court had to be escorted by an official. That detail ended years of abuse, as it prevented time manipulation and ensured accountability. The policy wasn't just disciplinary, it restored credibility. Fans stopped booing during long pauses, broadcasters stopped filling empty minutes with speculation. The sport began moving again, cleanly and confidently. It was a small adjustment that made professional tennis feel professional again. Mid-match injury. Injuries used to blur the line between pain and strategy. Some players genuinely suffered, others exaggerated to steal rest or disrupt an opponent's rhythm. To fix that, both tours introduced the injury verification rule in 2023. Now, a player requesting a medical timeout must undergo immediate evaluation by both the on-site trainer and the tour supervisor using tracking data and real-time motion metrics. If the injury cannot be confirmed as legitimate, the player forfeits one game. It's strict, but it works. Fake cramps and tactical timeouts vanished almost overnight. Match suspension. Weather chaos used to rewrite history. Before 2020, if rain stopped play, matches could restart from scratch or under completely new conditions. It broke rhythm, drained players, and warped fairness. That year, both tours unified a new continuation policy. Any suspended match must resume from the exact same score, same server, and as close as possible to the original court conditions, even if moved indoors. Wimbledon went further by setting a specific roof clause. Once a roof is closed for one match, it remains closed for that entire session. Penalties for crowds. Crowd control used to depend entirely on the umpire's mood. Some let noise slide, others stopped play for every phone ring. But as tennis moved into the streaming era, interruptions became constant. Phones flashed, people shouted mid-rally, and social media clips encouraged chaos in big arenas. In 2023, both the ATP and WTA rewrote their codes of conduct to address it directly. A new distraction clause was added. If a single spectator disrupts a point with noise or movement, the chair umpire can order an immediate replay. If it happens again, security removes that fan without warning. Tournament organizers must now post visible signs outlining these penalties before every session. Audiences still bring atmosphere, clapping, chanting, tension, but the line is clearer than ever. Passion is welcome. Distraction is not. Tennis ball. Consistency. Tennis balls sound simple, but for decades they weren't standardized. Each tournament picked its own brand and felt, leading to wild differences. Some were light and fast, others were heavy, dead, and brutal on the arm. The issue hit a breaking point in 2023, when top ATP players publicly complained that certain new balls caused wrist and elbow pain. The most vocal were Daniil Medvedev, Taylor Fritz, and Rafael Nadal, who all said switching ball types every few weeks was unsustainable. By early 2024, the ATP enforced a single compression and felt density standard across all tournaments. Sponsors could still vary, but every ball now had to meet the same performance metrics. The The effect was immediate. Players could train year-round with confidence, equipment teams stopped adjusting string tension weekly, and injury complaints dropped. Tennis doesn't care about comfort anymore, only precision, speed, and control. Every rule you've seen rewired how the sport breathes. The old rhythm is gone, replaced by pure calculation. If you want the next layer, the changes no one's ready for, stay locked in. Like the video and subscribe for what comes next.